Welcome to these sci-fi guys. Welcome everyone. Tonight we are going to be discussing one of our favorite movies. Actually, it's more than a movie. It is Back to the Future trilogy. We're going to talk about all three movies tonight, and it's with me is you guys all know John and my friend Chad, and then also we've got a special guest tonight. We got Matt is joining us tonight. So let me go and throw the banner up here. So if you really want to contact us, you can. We are on Twitter or X, as it's called now, at these sci-fi guys, or you can email us. These sci-fi guys at gmail.com, or if you're probably watching this on YouTube, you can find us right here on the YouTube channel, these sci-fi guys. So let's take the little ticker thing off. And so guys, how y'all doing tonight?
I'm good.
Good.
Doing good. All right. Well, so we're going to talk about Back to the Future. Let's just go with Back to the Future 1. All right. Let me just start with one. I want to start with one quick fun fact. You guys are all much younger, so you probably didn't even know this. Or if you did, if you were searching through stuff, you probably figured that out. All right. So two of the major songs that were in the movie were Power of Love and Back in Time. All right. Both of them were performed by Huey Lewis and the News.
Mm-hmm.
The actor, when they were in the auditorium and Michael J. Fox was playing as the Pinheads, the guitar, he was playing Power of Love, the song. Well, Huey Lewis was the guy that got up with the megaphone and said, "I'm sorry, you're too loud." So that was Huey Lewis. So his song is what he was playing. He's the one that wrote it and the one that performed it. And both of those songs actually became number one hits. So they were, big time in that. So let's start. Every one of us sent questions to each other. So we're going to start with eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's start with you, John. Give us a question you have.
Start us off easy, and that is, if you could pick any other vehicle that could have been the time travel agent, what vehicle would you have picked? Let's see. It's trickier to choose.
Pick me last.
Let's go with Matt. Matt.
I thought about this hard, but the first car that came to my mind is a Lotus. Have you ever seen an old Lotus?
Yeah.
It's kind of got that kind of boxy sports shape. And I double checked to make sure that there was a version of the Lotus and the Esprit. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but that's kind of what I was thinking of. And I could totally see all the time machine components and stuff on the back of a Lotus in that movie.
Ooh.
I can see that. How about you, Chad?
Well, I got to go with the family vehicle. I love the National Lampoon's the station wagon. Just think about it. You got a station wagon that's flying.
Well, not only that, but you got plenty of room in a station wagon to fit all that scientific equipment.
That's true. You could put all that scientifically
all the hoverboard
stuff in there. Yeah. Okay, I went a little bit more exotic, right? Because the DeLorean to me was considered an exotic car. And actually, I got even a couple pictures for you guys. All right. First off this is a Lamborghini Countach. I just thought with the way the doors opened, especially when he broke into the barn, that just having the gold wing of the DeLorean open, I thought just these would be great. And then my other one was going to be a GT40. This was actually from 1965, and just had the cool kind of wraparound, doors. I don't know. Just either one of those just kind of really just struck me as fancy. You could put all the time travel equipment on it, and it'd be really fun. So with that, okay, Chad, what is your first question that you've got?
Well, here's this. I don't know. Opening scene, you see him coming in and Doc's apartment with all those clocks. So there's one clock that stuck out to me when I watched it again. Can you tell which clock it is and what is foreshadowing in this movie?
Oh, Lord.
I actually know this, so I wanted to make sure to see if any of you guys did. Oh, look at okay,
I was
Matt,
gonna
you
say,
can't Google it.
I had no
I was
idea
just
You're
what
not
that
allowed to
I was just-
Google it.
I was just trying to Google a picture of the clock to see if I could
Okay,
guess.
what I saw was actually because I've seen the behind the scenes for this, and when they're panning across all the different clocks, one of them it was from a oh like early 20s or 30s movie where it has a comedian. I want to say it was like Charlie Chaplin or somebody of him actually hanging from the hands of the clock. And to me, that was just kind of a foreshadowing of what was going to happen later on with Doc. I don't remember exactly what the movie was or who it was, but that's the only thing I remember seeing when I saw the clocks. Was am I missing anything on that, Chad?
No, you got it right there.
Very
Okay.
cool.
Okay, well, Matt, give us your first question that you have for us tonight.
Okay, 1 second. I have to pull them back up. Okay, so this is kind of a you may or may not know, but the original actor who's supposed to play Marty McFly was actually a guy named Eric Stoltz, and they actually filmed a good chunk of the movie before they changed it to Michael J. Fox. And you can find like scenes and stuff with Eric Stoltz. And so, like, to me, when I think of Back to the Future, like, I think of Michael J. Fox. But my question is, do you think it would that Back to the Future would have still been a cult classic with Eric Stoltz as the main lead, as opposed to Michael J. Fox?
Anyone want to jump in?
I mean, I definitely think there are actors who could have stepped into that spot. I don't necessarily think it would have been a cult classic had Eric Stoltz been in that spot. Um, Overall, I think somebody could have filled it. I just don't think he would have had the same pizzazz. And clearly, I guess the directors and the producers and the film company thought the same thing in the long run. But that's my take on it, at least.
Yeah, I read somewhere that they filmed like I think I read somewhere that they spent like $4 million on what they'd already filmed and had to refilm again with Michael J. Fox. And they actually went to because Michael J. Fox was big back in 1985. I mean, one of the biggest shows out there was Family Ties, and that was a show that he was on. And they actually went to the company and said, "Hey, we want him for this movie originally," and they said no. And then they filmed all this with Eric, and then they went back to them and said, "Pretty pleased with sugar on top," and they said, "Okay." And I just don't think Eric has really done anything. I mean, I was looking on his IMDb page, and he's been a few background characters or what have you, but for him as an actor itself, I don't think he would have been a good fit. And like John said, they could have had somebody else do it, and that probably would have been okay. But uh, as for Eric, nah, I just don't think it was a good fit.
I always thought when I saw him and saw the clips, like, he definitely has a good look to him, but
Mhm.
like, there's just something about the personality and that Michael J. Fox brought to the character that I think really is what helped set it apart. Because the movie still would have been good. I think it would have been kind of more popular among like the sci-fi nerds and stuff than it would have been like a full pop culture thing if they had kept Eric.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
All right. What was my question? I had a question in here. Did I? I don't even remember what my question was. Okay. Oh yeah. All right. So we're in the movie. All the stuff happens at the end of the movie when Michael comes back, or I'll just say Marty, make it easier for us. When Marty comes back from 1955 to 1985, and then he's got his brand new, which I might add is an awesome looking pickup truck. Those were the bomb back in the day. I remember everybody wanted those. Would have loved to have had one, never did. But he had that brand new truck in there, and his dad had a Beamer. Well, his sister, who was successful and who was older than him, and who his brother had to go to the office. They didn't say what it was, but he had to go to the office. He was wearing a suit and tie. Also, who was older than him. Why didn't they have cars? Why is it that Marty the baby at 17, because he even says, "Look me up in 30 years and I should be 47." So we knew he was 17 in the movie, and I'm assuming his dad had the car. So what do you guys think about that? Chad, why don't you jump in?
Well, yeah, I think Marty was the baby. He gets everything. That's one way you think about it. But you got to me is it would have made the movie what it was if he didn't get the car at the end, because I think he was drink. Because remember the beginning of the movie, he was supposed to go to the lake, and he gets back. Goes, "Oh, you taking Jennifer to the lake? Yeah, go look outside." So I think he was just a spoiled little baby at the end.
Yeah, I can see that.
I have a theory, and I didn't get a chance to watch through all of them all the way through before this, but the way I've always viewed that scene, and I could be wrong, but the way I've always viewed it is they're not, like, his siblings aren't living at home, they're just visiting for breakfast, and like they don't freak out. They freaks out when he says something about the car being broke, but like I always viewed that as like they're freaking out because their dad's nice car is messed up. And I always just assumed they had their own vehicles, that you just didn't see them off screen. And so when Marty says something about the car, they're like, "What do you mean dad's nice car is messed up?" And they go out and they're like, "Yeah, it's fine." And then it's like, "Oh, well, here's your truck." And it's not that like they don't have their own vehicles and that they're also living at home. Like they're successful, but their cars are just parked on the road or something. I don't know. That's kind of how I've always viewed it, because it doesn't necessarily specifically say like, "What do you mean my car?" It's just me like, "What do you mean the car is messed up?" And then they go out there and learn like, "Oh no, see, it's right there. It's perfectly fine."
I could actually see that. I never really thought about it that way. So I like that. That's good. John, do you got anything to add?
Not entirely a whole lot. I mean, ultimately, Marty had a high taste, and he just went after him. I think that was his whole kind of goal. I mean, he wanted the truck, he went and got it, regardless of how that was because of the past changing or not. He wanted something, he went and got it. I think that's what it really amounts to.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, why don't you go ahead and give us your next question since you're already on here?
That's fair. One of the things that really gets me is like why the obsession with lightning? I mean, I understand plutonium wasn't necessarily the easiest source in the 50s, but surely there was something, especially considering the chances of getting hit by lightning. And I know for the story's sake and the plot line of, we know it struck the tower and it's lightning, but like, do you think there's another effective source even back in the 50s that they could have tried to have used before resorting to a lightning strike, and the whole theory of like them actually being able to make that timing of hitting the power line as they go along? So what do you guys think about all of that in general?
I don't know. I mean, they really slammed it in our faces about that they had to produce 1.21 gigawatts of power, and a lightning bolt was besides plutonium was like the only way to do it, and that's the only reason I kind of went with that, and I was like, okay, that makes sense, because I mean they kind of put it right in your face, like, okay, what was I thinking? How could I be so dumb? Only a lightning bolt will do that. And of course, Marty's like, well, guess what? I know exactly when there's going to be a lightning bolt. So I think I mean, obviously, it was for a plot point. That was a big thing, but it was to me, it just made a lot of sense. Knowing the fundamentals of electricity and all that, I mean, I can understand that I mean, basically it was the amount of electricity that was needed, and even in the 50s, I mean, besides like nuclear, like a nuclear bomb, or I can't think of anything else besides plutonium or a nuclear waste or something, besides Tesla was not really around back then. I mean, I take it back. The original Tesla, I mean, his designs were, but I just don't think they had enough power. Anybody else got anything on that?
I think, well, I think what you're talking about is like at the time, I can't think of anything else that at the time that would work. And I think there's the line where something's said about plutonium, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sure in 1985 you can just get plutonium on the street corner or whatnot. You can't get that here." So like, I guess lightning's the next best thing. But like, I always think it also kind of has this like imagery of like capturing lightning, and with like Ben Franklin and the key and the thing of like that's always been a big thing with science, is like trying to capture lightning, and then you've got like Tesla and stuff like that. So I kind of always imagined that was kind of the nod that was going with.
Entirely fair. Entirely fair.
Yeah. Okay, Matt,
Just
you
the thought
got
I
one
had,
final.
especially with the timing.
Oh yeah, the timing. It was just, but I think the timing it was one of those things because he knew what was going to happen when it was going to happen to the exact minute, and that's the only reason it worked. Matt, you got one more question for us about something about villain
Yes.
or something.
So the I think of it as the famous scene when Marty dresses up in the hazmat suit and calls himself Darth Vader. What other like pop culture figure could Marty have called himself other than Darth Vader? I mean, I think Darth Vader is probably the best one, but can y'all think of any other like big pop figure, like characters that he would know about that they would just be like, I don't know what Darth Vader is. Ah.
Well, I actually thought of a couple. I actually did a little digging on this one.
Oh, I'm so ready.
Because Matt, I know how much you're into comics, and
It's true.
I had to go. I went through and I found some old DC and some Marvel, some people, some different people in there. So if you were to go the comic route, you could go Deathstroke, you could go Punisher, or you could go Thanos. But I can see he's like, yeah. He's like, those would be cool. But actually, for movies, both of these movies were made before Back to the Future. So, I just think of Arnold as the Terminator. He comes up, I am the Terminator. I mean, he could have even pulled the Arnold, the voice and everything. And if not that, like Ricardo Montalban, Khan. I mean, just those are ones I thought of. Anybody else got any?
You just said the last one in Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. Oh, that was great because that was like early '80s, like '82 or something. But yeah, let's not talk about V'ger in the first Star Trek movie. That one was so. I really like the comic route though. I thought that would have been, I mean, especially him being a sci-fi nerd, and I tried to find stuff that were released after 55. So most of those were released like late 70s, like 77 through 81. So that's when most of those characters were actually released. So
I like it.
Yeah. All right. I think John froze up on us because his face hasn't moved. So we're gonna go to. Oh, actually, let me one more thing. I just thought of. And well, what would have happened? I know this is kind of. I'm throwing y'all a bone here. Do you think there would have been any copyright infringement on the Star Wars and on Vulcan and on all the other stuff that he came out with in his book? And of course, he's like, that really happened. That's really what happened. And then, the science fiction community comes out. Star Trek comes out in the 60s, and then Star Wars comes out in the 70s, and it's like, those are the names that were told.
I hadn't thought of that. I guess the question is when did he write his books as opposed to when did those movies come out? Because if he started writing them and then suddenly like, wait a minute, this George guy just made a movie and is using a character that I heard about in my childhood. What's going on?
Yeah. I just thought that was really interesting and how that could have worked out. But also, one last little tidbit. Did you guys notice the cassette when he put it into his player to put the headphones on George, and it said Edward Van Halen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they originally had Van Halen on there, and Van Halen, the group, said, "No, we're not gonna. You can't use our name." Eddie Van Halen, the guitarist, said, "You can use my name." So he wrote
Ah,
Edward Van Halen, and he's the one that. And so they didn't use Van Halen music. It's just Eddie playing the guitar. That's
ah,
all it is.
I didn't
Yeah,
know
it was
that.
one of those things that was like, okay, as a group, they said no, but Eddie's like, yeah, you can use me. That's cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, so let's go on to. All right, so we're in Back to the Future Part 2. So if you haven't watched the movie, I'm not going to tell you all about it. You guys go watch it. I mean, I actually watched all three of them in 1 week. So it was just kind of to refresh my memory because I mean,
Sounds
I've
like
seen
a
them.
good week.
It really was a good week, actually. It was like, oh, okay, let's watch this one. And I had a few time, and I was like, oh, let's watch this one. Oh, let's watch this. And then that's what it started. Okay, then the stuff started to go into the brain. So, Matt, why don't you start us off with your first question?
All right. So I love this movie. I love all of them, but I love this one. This is a simple question. How do you think the movie did at predicting the future and future technologies?
Okay, Chad, you're our IT guy. Please tell us.
Also, I got to put my hat on for this one.
Oh, you got it. Oh, if you're audio only, sorry, you need to be on YouTube and check him out. He's got the Marty McFly Jr. hat.
Oh yeah,
It's
Now,
great.
it's very uncomfortable, but I'm gonna wear it for a little bit.
it's neat. Well, you look at the hologram when Jaws come out. Now, it we do have holograms, but it's not that in detail yet, where it actually will move and track you. So it's neat how they predicted. Other than that, lace up shoes. I don't think I haven't seen them out there yet.
I don't know. Apparently,
Yeah,
you can get
they
those
actually
shoes.
are.
You can actually buy that pair of shoes now.
Mm.
So, yeah, Matt's saying it's expensive. Seriously, expensive.
Listen, the sneakerheads drive up prices. That's their own problem.
Yeah.
So true.
So, John, how about you? What about you? You think they did well predicting future tech?
I think they kind of halfway got it, but I also think there's that element of kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, did technology imitate art, or did art predict technology? Kind of, which way did it go? Because I can definitely see where people draw inspiration from films like this and try to make stuff do that in the real world. Like, obviously, people have been trying to make that hoverboard forever, and we've made some fun imitations, but haven't quite got close. So, in some way, is it like, life imitating art, or did they just do a good job of predicting? I don't actually know. But there's definitely some things I know we have gotten close on. But I think it missed the mark a little bit on the direction we would head in. Like, specifically, I think the movie kind of missed the AI side of things in the real world, but at the same time predicted other cool technologies that I wish we had. So, right.
Oh yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, I was like, with some of the things that they got right. I mean, if you think about it, you have your phone that has a fingerprint scanner on it. I mean, our house doesn't have a fingerprint scanner, but a lot of times you have gun safes. You've got other areas where you've got to use a fingerprint to get into.
I say, and your house could have one.
It could be, yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And then the video chat, like kind of what we're doing right now. I mean, that was something that wasn't heard of back then. I mean, and especially having the instantaneous, because I mean, his boss was. I think that he was supposed to be over in Japan or China or something. I don't exactly remember where, but I mean, and then he swiped his card just like our credit cards are now. They'll instantly send you a text saying, "Hey, did you make this purchase? This looks like fraudulent, whatever." I'm sure their companies would do the same thing. What they missed. Flying cars. I mean, the thing was 2015. Here we are in 2023, and we still can't fix potholes in the roads right. I mean, I go back. I mean, I'm older than you guys, so I remember when Space 1999 came about. Hey, we were supposed to be living on the moon and flying around in rocket ships and stuff. It didn't happen. Back to the Future didn't happen. One of the things I thought was funny is they actually had a because that movie was filmed in, I think it was 89, was the second one. And they actually had a brand new 1989 Mustang, which all these extra stuff on it with a big wing on the back and everything. And I was just like, oh, they're just really trying to make it look futuristic, even though it's not. I mean, it was a new body style, but it really wasn't. I mean, dehydrated pizza, we have dehydrated food, but not pizza, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the, like John said earlier, they missed on the hoverboard, and I do not miss Doc Matrix printers at all, and that's what that was. I mean, going, I mean, that was a Dot Matrix.
Mhm.
You know, now with laser printers, it's just like, comes out. Here you go.
Mhm.
So those are kind of some of the things that that definitely missed the mark. Chad, how about your next question for the second
Ooh.
movie?
Let's see here. Find mine. Well, here's this. You mentioned it was 2015. So that anybody remember the actual date they weren't supposed to go back?
October 26th.
7th. I thought it was October
Seventh.
27th.
I thought it was 21st.
Oh, gotta Google it now.
I googled it. October
I could have
20th.
sworn it was October 27th. Was the when he was? Well, maybe I'm thinking the third movie. The third movie, when he came back on October 27th.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was 26th. Oh, I'm
I
seeing
could be
multiple
wrong.
things. I'm seeing
Yeah,
26, 21.
it's everywhere. So anyway, what's your question
Yeah.
about it, Chad?
Yeah.
That was one we were kind of scratching our heads with.
Yeah, but the thing is, they went back in October, whatever, in 2015. So we just got done talking about the tech. So you got to think, people that have seen this movie when they first came out, that, oh, yeah, flying cars. Did people really think that they were going to have flying cars 20 years, or was it about 30 years?
About 15 years later. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
2015, because it came out, it was filmed in 89, so it would have
Yeah.
come out roughly 90. So you're saying, yeah, 25 years later, they're thinking, hey, we're having flying cars.
Yeah.
You know,
So to me, that's the hey, there's not prediction of the future, but yeah, it's a nice premise. That's to look for, because hey, we're gonna be like the Jetsons.
yeah. Oh, the Jetsons. Yeah, I thought of that a lot of times. But if you think about it, the Jetsons currently are exactly what we are here in 2023.
Yeah.
Besides the flying cars, I mean, think about it. You have robot cleaning. I know you have a little robot that goes around it and vacuums everything.
Mhm.
You know, you've got monitors, and you do all your work from home. You know, you've got treadmills to walk your dog. I mean, it's kind of, hey, we're living in the Jetsons world, other than flying.
Mm-hmm.
But so, hey, let me throw my question up here since I'm talking right now. Where was my? Oh yeah, okay. So in part 2, when Doc actually, Marty goes back, he sees Biff. They get into a scuffle. Then Doc's like, "Well, look what they did to me." Shows the newspaper that Doc was put into a psycho ward. Obviously, that means there was a Doc in that reality besides himself. So, where was Marty in that timeline? Not Marty that came in the time machine, but Marty in that timeline.
I got it.
Okay.
So you got to think, he goes and finds Biff, but then when Biff finally sees him, say, "How'd you?" He says Switzerland. So I think he sent him to a boarding school in Switzerland.
Oh, I missed that part. Okay.
So I think Biff was just trying to get rid of the kids, like all his brother and sister, and just have Lorraine to himself.
Mhm.
So to me, that's what his whole plan was. Why are you back from Switzerland? What you done this time?
I
did not hear that. I missed that part. Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So my thought on that is kind of to go off of that. I always viewed it as, okay, if you have Marty without all of this character development where he was, and if you give him like a stepdad who's a billionaire and his siblings a stepdad who's a billionaire, and he doesn't want the kids around, like Marty's probably off spending his stepdad's money and doesn't even care about what's happening, because this is Marty without any of this character development, who's, so it's the reference to Switzerland I always kind of thought was like, oh yeah, so he just gave the kids money and told them, go away. I don't care what you do. Just go do whatever you want. And so the kids are somewhere around just spending money and living a lavish lifestyle without knowing what home dude's doing to their mom, essentially. But it could be a boarding school thing too. I like that too.
Yeah, I like that. I didn't think about it. I missed that. I totally missed the whole Switzerland part. John, you got any points you want to mention?
I think he's frozen.
Oh, I think he's froze up. All right.
Hold on, he's talking. John,
he's talking.
You
John,
muted.
you're muted.
You're still muted.
Oh no.
Oh no. It's his internet. Maybe he's going to try to
he's gone.
disconnect and try to connect back up. Okay. Let's see here. Who else has a question? Okay, I had a question then. Okay, so the hoverboard was you saw all the different what do you call them, advertisements, the big Texaco, that was a big major sponsor of stuff. And then you had the oh, he's texting me some stuff. All the different issues that we were dealing with, issues. I'm sorry, we're thinking of two different things at once. All the different advertisements and stuff. All right, so you had Texaco, you had other stuff. So anyway, so he went and he has the Barbie hoverboard. All right, so we're here now. Obviously, we're looking at this much later. Who would you have sponsor that hoverboard rather than Barbie? Now, remember, this is supposed to be the future of 1985. So you kind of have to think about, you can go ahead and go, hey, it was an IBM thing or it was whatever. But I'll just kind of throw one out there. I used to be big into skateboards. And one of the major companies back in the day was Santa Cruz. So to me, that would have been a perfect, a segue. Okay, you have Santa Cruz, one of these little scooter thingies because they're in the mainstream now. You rip it off. Now you've got a cool daddy, hoverboard. Or if Mattel wanted to keep it in-house, call it Hot Wheels. I mean, there's just nothing better than Hot Wheels. I mean, or Matchbox or something, just some kind of cool car.
But there are no wheels, Dave.
I know, but it's still the company logo of Hot Wheels is just
they've rebranded
with the
in
flame and everything. Just
2015.
rebrand it, Okay,
Hot hover.
Matt's on the same wavelength as me. Yeah,
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, if you go with like kids, my first thought was like, you go since it's Barbie, like what would be a more masculine thing? And my first thought was like, I don't know, Transformers or G.I. Joe was huge back then. Like,
oh yeah,
they would have
Transformers would have been cool because then it could have changed into something else.
So like that's my first thought is like going with the toy theme of like, oh, if it was a boy or whatnot, and he picked up and it was like a Transformers or a G.I. Joe camouflage hoverboard or something with like little plastic guns on the side or something.
I mean, I would venture to go where Legos around, or even in the future idea.
Yeah.
Then like definitely Legos. Just let the two places where you stand be studs. And call it a day.
Ow.
At least he had shoes on. So, but
Well, I'm
still,
saying like you could just step right onto those paths. It'd be fun. They don't
What
have
if it was?
to be hollow.
What if he had something like Nintendo or Atari? Some of these like at the time were still kind of newer companies, but like blowing up with game consoles and stuff. It's like, oh, of course they'd make hoverboards in the future, like Nintendo hoverboard.
That would have been magnificent.
Oh yeah, I could see that. I totally can see that. Chad, what was your next question? You had something about actors.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you want to get into that because do you want to wait to the end, or because they actually you mentioned something I think on one of yours. It was in that was in the third movie, I think.
But, yeah, mine's in the third. Don't worry about it. I won't worry about it. You go ahead and mention yours.
So here's this. I've looked it up. Do you notice they actually changed the actor who played Jennifer?
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, why did they change her? You had her in the first and come back. Why didn't you just keep her the same for at least the first two movies?
So I
Well,
used to know the like logistical answer to this. There was something with the actual actress, but I know that the reason it kind of weirdly works is because she's only in it like at the very end of the first movie.
Yeah.
And so like they refilmed it with the new actress like so perfectly, like back shot for shot, that like unless you're watching them back to back, you'd probably completely not forget that it's a different actress. Because I know I did for a long time. I'd watch it one and go, wait a minute, that's not the same person. It was only just because I just recently watched the other one.
Yeah.
So
yeah. See, on my original watch through, I didn't catch that at all. It wasn't until I actually watched all three of them in a week is the only time I caught it. And to answer your question is I actually looked this up is the actress actually stepped away from acting for several years because her mother was diagnosed with cancer.
hmm.
So she was taking care of her mother, and that was the whole reason why she stepped away from acting. And as what Matt said, they went back and just they found somebody that was very, very, very close. I mean,
Yeah.
to the really close looking, you're like, oh, okay. If you really didn't know, like I said, I watched these movies years ago originally. I didn't know they'd changed the actress till this week when I was watching all these. I was like, really? They changed her? No way.
Well, and I also feel like nowadays it's not uncommon for that to happen if like because that character was much more involved in the second one. So like today, if that would happen, it probably wouldn't be that weird. You'd just go, oh well, this character is now going to be more involved in this movie. They wanted a better or a higher, tier actor to come in and portray that character. While in the first one, she's in the like last few minutes of it, and that's kind of it. So
Yeah. Yeah. The thing
And
is,
plus, there's also a likelihood of aging out too. I feel like because a lot of actors and actresses they just age out, or even if they don't necessarily quote unquote age out, they look older. Their looks change. Now that may not have been the case in this particular case, but I could have seen where that would have been if y'all hadn't had that discourse.
Yeah, I mean, it was so close. They were really so very close on
yeah.
on how they looked.
Yeah. The thing is, you couldn't really tell if you just watched it and just didn't look at it closely, but you couldn't tell. I like the actor they changed her to, so it doesn't matter. They both both good actresses.
Now, if they would have tried to replace, say, his mom, I can't even think of her name now. It's Leah
Leah Thompson.
Thompson. Now, if they would have tried to replace her, I think that would have been, or Doc, that would have been much more difficult because
Yeah.
they were so focally a part of the movies of all of them. While she did have a smaller role. So, John, did you have any questions on this movie on the second movie?
The only one I'll really keep and go over is which one, like which world that they end up going and being a part of, do you think is more accurate to our current reality? Is it the really futury, like golden age, or is it the dystopian, ad-ridden, you know, everything going crazy and evil side? Which side do you think is most accurate to where we are?
I've been doing a lot of talking. I want somebody else to talk.
I mean, in some places, probably the dystopian world's probably pretty accurate. But
Yeah.
honestly, I'd say the future one's not far off because even with all the really cool tech and stuff, it wasn't like super clean. It wasn't like the utopia future you see sometimes. Like it was still kind of grungy a little bit. Like, and I mean, we talked a lot about some of the technology. Some of it's really far fetched, like flying cars and stuff. But like, they didn't have smartphones. They didn't predict smartphones, and like having a supercomputer in your pocket every day is totally something that I could have seen them like have and being like, oh, this is something in the future. You're never going to have this.
Right.
And I mean, you talked about like video chats and stuff. I think I have a lot of smart home stuff in my house, like smart lights, like robot vacuums, stuff like that, that like they got pretty close. So I honestly think that, really cool future isn't far off from where we are in some facets.
Yeah, I see that. Thing is, also with he goes back, it goes to the future, and oh, here's a cool future '80s style bar. retro. So you see those now, like you get you don't see the bar, you see the retro games, like going and play the old Pac-Man, old Tetris, and Street Fighter, stuff like
Mhm.
that. So
Give us a few years. We'll have an 80s retro bar again.
yeah,
Oh yeah, totally.
As someone who grew up in the 80s, I can say that. And I really want to see, maybe not the bar, but at least, I love the retro stuff that's coming back. I mean, heck, I remember I used to wear checkerboard Vans back in the day when we were skateboarding and BMX and stuff. And now they're back again, and people wearing checkerboard slip on Vans now again all the time. I'm kind of I'm agreeing with both of you guys. I am the same way. Is I see portions of both. I see tons of corruption in government. I see ads everywhere. Not only billboards, but I mean, you can't even play. You can't get on Facebook or Twitter or anything else without every third post. And if you didn't know this, every third post is an ad
Mhm.
on Facebook and on Twitter, and probably Instagram is the same way. I just don't have Instagram, so. But yeah, every third one is an ad for something, and so ads are definitely. It's they say that's how companies make money. I'm still not sure about that. I mean, people spend millions and millions of dollars for advertisement. I don't see how that little thing that I'm scrolling right past real quick is going to make all that back. But
'Cause it only
it is
takes
That's
possible.
because
one
you know
click.
how to avoid targeted ads.
That's true. Targeted. Yeah.
You
yeah.
avoid the algorithm.
I got a super cool Star Wars like Tatooine National Park hat that my wife bought from an ad because she saw it and went, "That actually looks like something that Matt would like," and she bought it from it. And then all it takes is one click. It just has to be just the right ad, just the right sale that you didn't know about for one or two people to catch attention, and then they make a bunch of money. So
yeah.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, I definitely think it's a little bit of both, for sure.
mhm.
For sure.
Yeah, and I
All
think
right.
I agree with that point. I mean,
Yeah. Chad, I think you had one more one about another actor.
Yeah.
You had a question.
So it's you remember him? Okay, he goes into the '80s bar, '80s cafe. There's two kids at the trying to get the arcade game to work. Do you remember? Do you know? One there's an actor that's famous now. That's a little boy in the movie.
I think I used to know this.
Come on, Matt.
Hold
Come
on,
on,
it's not.
God. I know the answer, but I'm not going to say
This
yet.
may be shot in the dark, and I don't know if this is accurate. Is it Home Dude who plays Frodo Baggins? I can't think of his name. Was I right?
It's Frodo.
It's I can't think of the actor's
Elijah
name.
Wood.
Yeah.
Elijah Wood. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was right. Oh, cool.
Yeah, you were right. You're right. It was Frodo that played Elijah. Elijah Wood that plays Frodo. Yeah. All right. Somebody had a question about the almanac.
That it was
Who was that?
that was me. They what you know how Biff. And it was funny is Biff gets it and takes it back to 55 to do it. But what if he in 55 that Marty kept the book, like burned the book, but memorized some stuff for himself?
I think absolute power makes absolute corruption. I think it would be very similar to what you saw in the second one. I think he would have the greed would have just. I mean, let's say he just burnt the, I don't know, the cover of it and he kept it, or even better, he never told Doc about it and it never went back to 55, and then he just went back to 85, and then he was able to for the next till 2000. So he was
2000.
able to for the next 15 years. I think it would have been very similar to what Biff did. Because
But then
if you have that access and you're going to win every time. I mean, I think he would have been investigated at some point. Biff would have been.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, Matt, go ahead.
Because he's so rich and famous and he can't bet anymore, he spends his entire fortune trying to replicate the time machine to go back to continue making money. because rich people are never happy. So when he gets to the point where he can't make money off of betting anymore, he knows time travel is possible. Then you get this dark timeline where he's trying to replicate time travel so he can keep making his millions.
Well, think about it though. If he would have, but think about it this way: if he would have gone to the future, got the book, went back in time to 85, and this is not the Biff timeline. This is regular timeline. Doc would have never destroyed the DeLorean, so he would have still had access to the car at some point and been able to keep doing it. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those. It's one of those. Ooh, we can go into this real deep hole here.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything?
Well, okay. His first movie, Biff goes into and runs into a manure truck. So, old Biff is watching in the second movie the same thing that's happened to him that's happened to his grandson.
Mhm.
Why did
Oh,
he?
yeah.
Why did he just go and click? Oh, this happened to me, and then notice the kid was, oh, it's George, it's Marty, but it was supposed to, what he called himself in the first one in '55, like who?
Calvin Klein.
Calvin. Oh, that's Calvin.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a lot of little plot holes that could have been fixed, but I mean, think about it. It was a fun movie. It really
Yeah.
was. The last thing I have on the second movie is George also was replaced. He was replaced in the second and the third movie. The original actor was Crispin Glover, and he wanted way too much money because he didn't like the movie. He didn't like the movie at all, and he said, "I want $1 million per movie to do it." And they were like, "Nope."
And
So they
we're
went and
gonna
got
hire that guy.
they went and got Jeffrey Wiseman and said, "He looks very much like you." And they greased his hair and said, "Call it a day," because I didn't know
And
he was changed either. You know?
works better than the girlfriend
Yeah.
actress
Exactly.
replacement, honestly.
Because he actually had a smaller role in in the second and third movies than even than Jennifer did.
Mhm.
All right, so part 3. Let's start with John. John, why don't you give us your first question your question from part 3?
So my question mainly is, what parts of part 3 do you think were most realistic? I mean, with the steam locomotive hitting a certain speed and other things going on, just overall, what parts of that film do you think were most realistic, either to their time period, to what we would think about the time period, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, everyone carrying guns and nasty water. Those are the two most realistic things I could think of.
Yeah.
And then a blacksmith. I mean, I think he could have pulled that off. Doc could have pulled that off fairly easily. I mean, why did he make a refrigeration? I mean, he was Mr. Scientist, doesn't want to affect anything, but yet he makes a refrigeration unit so he can have iced tea. In 1885, no. Why are you doing this? This makes no sense at all. But the actual scene and the behind the scenes stuff is they actually built that entire town strictly for this movie. It was not a pre-done set or anything like a Western or anything or a Western town. They built it from scratch. So
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. Chad, what do you got? Anything?
Yeah. Thing is, Doc was a scientist. He said, "Don't alter time." But what does he do? He alters time. Refrigeration. Oh, he didn't even forget that the ravine was called Clayton Ravine, so he saves the girl. So he's contradicting himself in the third movie. A lot.
Matt, what about you?
I mean, he is a scientist. I guess his philosophy is as long as nobody else gets it, I can have my stuff. He also made like a sniper rifle.
Yeah,
but I think the settings were all Western accurate. Like it gives me spaghetti Western vibes. Like probably not the most accurate, but like for what you'd expect to see in a Western movie, yeah, all of it seems accurate.
Yeah, can you explain what spaghetti Western means? I'm not sure everyone knows.
So kind of think of how like now we have this like time of like tons and tons of superhero movies. There was a time period where westerns were what we think of superhero movies now, where like there were just everybody loved westerns, and there were just tons and tons of westerns coming out constantly. So there's like this whole time period that, and they're kind of called spaghetti westerns because a lot of the like directors and stuff were Italian. So like this term of spaghetti western came up, and it's literally a time period where you can go back and there's just tons and tons of western shows, movies. It was just, we're very close to that with superhero movies now. That's kind of become, and I've heard, I think Spielberg compared it to spaghetti westerns, where we'll look back in however many years where we won't have as many superhero movies, and we'll look back and it's just like, wow, we really liked superhero movies back then. That's where the term spaghetti westerns
it's kind of overload.
Oversaturated, really.
Yeah, oversaturated right now.
Have you the trilogy of the good, the bad, the ugly, the fistful of dollars, and that was all spaghetti western. It wasn't made. So that's to me what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he made a sniper rifle, but back then they had a scope to fit those guns, but not what he had.
Yeah, it would have just been a metal.
Yeah, a little metal cylinder,
single point or whatever, and then it was pretty obvious he hooked a telescope up to the rifle. But at the same time, if he's not steady, that still doesn't matter. Just because you can see it really close, if you're not steady.
Suspended.
Yeah. Okay, who's got the next question then for us? I know we're doing good on time and everything. I know this is going to be a long one, but we're having fun with this. Let's see.
I have one that goes. Goes along with the spaghetti western.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
So my question was, do you think the western setting was an attempt to capture the soul of spaghetti westerns? So do you think like them going, we're gonna make them western now, was an attempt of being like, hey, we're gonna capture that essence that everybody really liked these kind of movies back in the day?
Yeah, I see that. Good think about what 1955 Doc dresses Marty in what he thought, because that's when the restaurant was very big, flashy type of clothes, cowhide laying down. So he sent him back to what he thought what the restaurant was supposed to be like. But to me, yeah, I think they was trying to capture essence. Yes.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with the same thing. I think they were trying to capture that. Plus, I mean, you have to keep going back in time to, it's not like he was going to go forward in time. And of course, they threw these Easter eggs all throughout the whole thing. They're like, oh, that would have been great. That was when this was first discovered, or when this was done, or when this was done. All these little nuggets. I mean, all three of the trilogies are basically just a foreshadowing of everything that is to come, from the very moment, as Chad said, the first movie when the clocks came out to all the way up to the very end. It's just a one big foreshadowing. Anyway, John, you got a question for us, or?
That was all I had for part 3 at least. So
okay.
In those regards, no.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see. Somebody asked a question about. Oh, maybe it was me. Oh yeah, it was me. Okay, instead of Clint Eastwood, who would you have as Marty's name to be?
John Wayne.
John Wayne.
Who's the only other option? I mean, really, you got all these other guys who are just la-di-da-di-da cowboys. No, you got to go John Wayne. He was the other.
Okay. Okay, so you guys went with that. All right, I can see that, because John Wayne. But let's think about it this way. I mean, it's 1985. Remember, that's what he's thinking of. So it needs to be somebody that's big in 85. John Wayne was he was okay. Clint Eastwood was much bigger than John Wayne in 85. Because Clint Eastwood was in like Any Which Way You Can, Every Which Way But Loose. He was all the Dirty Harry movies, if I remember right. I was thinking somebody like Charles Bronson. I mean, That has a little bit more of a masculine sounding name. Or if you really want to go cool and a throwback, let's go fictional name. Call themselves Bond, James Bond.
Well,
That would have been
I mean,
good.
just something. I think just something like that would have just, because there's a lot of humor in it. And I did read that Clint Eastwood, they actually asked his permission to do it, and he was tickled pink, and he was like, "Yes, oh, absolutely, that's great."
Could do another sci-fi throwback and do like Luke Skywalker or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I mean, he could have. I think
I don't-
a fictional name would have been pretty cool.
yeah. Well, you also have Lee Von Cleef, that the bad guy, and the good, the bad, and the good, the bad, the ugly. At the same time, it was in a lot of spaghetti westerns and westerns out there.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Somebody asked a question about the time machine.
Yeah. All right. See, that's me.
Let's end it. Let's go there. That'll be our last question.
See,
I think that's a good one.
Think you remember, he sends them off with pushing the DeLorean by the train. Said, "When you get back to 85, destroy the DeLorean." So he gets back, rolls in, and it gets destroyed. So he goes gets Jennifer, brings it back to the destroyed site, and a few minutes later, here comes Doc in a time machine train. So where did he get the materials for that in 1885?
Suspend your disbelief.
Oh, let's go back to the electricity thing. 1.21 gigawatts. How in the world are you going to do 1.21 gigawatts in the 1800s? And then the second question:
chugga, choo choo.
I do have a thought
if the train,
on that.
wait a minute, if the train flies too, why does it have to land on a railroad tracks? And then why did the things come down when it wasn't? It was flying. I mean, it was.
Suspend your disbelief.
It's called.
Obviously, they went to the future because it could fly. So, like, he only had to figure out how to get enough power one time, because then they could go to the future, and then he could just
steal it,
run it off of aluminum cans with the Mr.
But he says straight up, it's run by steam.
Yeah.
He does say that. He's like, look, it's run by steam.
Yeah, he probably was lying, though.
I mean, again, plot point. He went back to 85. He went to his house, I guess, to pick up Einstein, then came back, went somewhere else, and then came back just so they could have the dramatic entrance for Marty and Jennifer, So, I don't know. Doc seems like a jerk sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I think he hands them a frame with him, Doc and him sending the clock. They got struck by lightning. And then, here's something to remember about. You can't really show them.
Hey, you just lie and say it was your ancestor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, I think I've sent y'all a question about, why did Doc fall in love instantly with Clara when he's such a scientist? I mean, we're not going to really talk about that much, but, I mean, everything that he's done has always been scientifically, supposedly, we're not supposed to do this. It'll mess up it'll mess up the time continuum. It'll mess up this. But yet he kept the piece of paper and he taped it together, wore the bulletproof vest, I mean, he's a hypocrite, complete hypocrite. Because I mean, he says one thing but does another. He's back in 1885, makes a refrigerator.
Well, he didn't tell Marty about the crash. Don't do this because that's what ruins your life.
Yeah, exactly. Although a couple of plot points I thought were pretty funny. When they were in 1885 the second time, he would have never made it to 88 miles an hour before hitting the picture the picture frame or the because he had much larger tires. When you add a bigger tire onto your car, your speedometer goes lower. So if you say your speedometer says you're driving 50 miles an hour, you're actually driving 40 miles an hour, So did he really get up to 88 miles an hour? I don't know. With those big tires, I don't think so. And then on the other end, when he was on the railroad tracks, not having any tires, he actually was faster. So when his finally said 88, he probably was doing probably 90, 95,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then did you guys notice at the end when they changed it, instead of Clayton Ravine, it was Easton Ravine?
Yeah,
Eastwood
Eastwood.
Ravine?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, all right, let's just kind of wrap this up. What are you guys' final thoughts about the movie overall? Let's start with you, Chad. Tell us, your overall, you like it, dislike it. Do you think they should make a remake? Would you change anything? Let's
I like
go.
I like the movie. I wouldn't say go remake all three. I would love to see them to follow Doc's kids in the train. Just do a movie on that and feed off that. Do new. I don't like when people when they go back and remake movies. So just for the glamour. Other than that, the movie was good. I would suggest highly watching all three. So that's me.
Okay, John, how about you?
I mean, I definitely agree. Definitely enjoy them. They are a classic trilogy for a reason. The only thing I would do in terms of remakes when AI gets to that point is just like restoring them, quote unquote, in the digital age and just kind of adding some clarity and high definition to them just to make them pop a little more. But even that, I don't even think is necessary. There's just something about a classic film look and just overall, they encapsulate a lot of cool things. So overall, love them to death.
Okay, Matt.
I love Back to the Future. Some of y'all probably know this, but no one hearing this probably knows this. But all of my social handles are Matthew McFly, and my gamer tag, anything when I'm playing video games, my name is McFly. I've used that since I was like 14. I love Back to the Future. I think the first one is the best one, but the second one is my favorite, and the third one is kind of like that, like I call it the Batman and Robin effect. Like, it's not the best movie, but like I love it anyway, like because I enjoyed it as a kid. But they're just such good movies, and I love them. I don't ever. I'm conflicted when the idea of like remaking or like continuing movies like this comes up, because there's a part of me it's like, yeah, go for it. It's not gonna make the original any worse. I still have the original to enjoy. If it's terrible, but it might be good and I might enjoy it. But I think like a continuation reboot revamp would be good. I'd enjoy to see that. I'd love to see DeLorean come out with this new version of the DeLorean they've been teasing for like 10 years, and them do some kind of Back to the Future, but instead of it being like a remake, it just like a continuation on, or like something completely separate. And if it's good, yay. If it's bad, it doesn't make the old ones bad. I think of Tron. Like, I love the new Tron movie that came out a few years back, but like it doesn't take away from the old one if you hate it. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. From my perspective, I think I'm the only one of us that actually saw the movie originally in the theater, at least the first one.
So jealous.
Yeah. Actually, I think I've seen all three of them originally in the theaters, but it was still great. I'm in totally agreement with you guys. I would not. What John said about it, when they get to the point where they could actually, touch it up or something, kind of like what they did with the Star Trek, the original series, when they went back and they touched up all the spaceships and all that. I mean, I think it would be pretty cool to touch up the DeLorean, and especially some of the Western stuff. I think that would have been really, to kind of, I don't know, modernize it, maybe clean it up a little bit. As for making a reboot, no, don't make a reboot. Uh, don't add on to it. I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and nothing hurts me worse than anything after the original trilogy. All the prequels were, sorry, this, I know this is not a Star Wars one, but just things like that really, don't mess with something that is almost as close to perfection as you can have. There's just such a good movie overall. All three of these were. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to tease you guys for what's our next one. All right. Matt had actually mentioned earlier about reboots and sequels and all that. Well, this is a movie that has been rebooted, but we are not going to watch the reboot right now. We're going to go back to the original, and I'll just throw it up here. We're going to go back to the original Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger.
All right. Total Recall. They redid it back in 2000, I think it was, or early 2000s, and it wasn't good.
No.
But this original one back from like I think it was 80 or 87.
It was in the 80s.
It was somewhere in the 80s. It was so good. It is not family friendly, so just make sure when you watch it, you're alone or not with your kids around. But yeah, definitely. I appreciate you guys all being on here. This has been on here for a little over an hour. You guys all appreciate you guys. I was actually, my internet stayed on the whole time. John's had a few issues with his, but just a little bit. But other than that, thank you guys for all being on here. And for those of you out there listening and watching to us, we appreciate you guys, and peace out.